Hello Millwall fans, Paul Eiffel here. It's time for Chat with Chaps.
Hello, Millwall fans, and welcome back to another episode of Chat with Chaps. This is the post-match analysis for the game at Pride Park that finished Derby County 0, Millwall 1. Now, as always, before we get into the game, please do give this video a like. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube and give it a follow if you're listening to this on podcast. It really, really helps the channel, guys. And everything we're doing this season, of course, is going to cancer research. So we really do appreciate all the help and support. And leave a comment, whatever you want to say. Really don't care. Even if it's hi, you think my hat's shit, I really don't mind. Whatever you want to say, just write it. It's all good. And we appreciate all the comments and we do read them all, even if we don't get back to everyone. So thank you very much. Okay, right, let's get into the game then. So this one, it was a real tricky one for me to call before the game because, Derby, they haven't won since Boxing Day. They haven't scored a goal at home since Boxing Day. But at the same time, obviously John Eustace leaving Blackburn for Derby. I think there's a number of factors in that. Obviously, Blackburn much further up in the table, but I think there's a lot of things off the field at Blackburn that weren't quite right for John Eustace. And I think there's some personal challenges that he has, meaning that he wants to be certainly nearer his base. And of course, he's a former Derby player. So it was kind of the homecoming for John Eustace. And, you've got to put that into perspective. Derby, they're a big club. I think it was 29,000 fans there. So, it's a big moment for them. Were they going to get the new manager bounce? You've also got the fact that we played in midweek, which they didn't. Obviously, travelling up to Preston, so 2 away games. So all of these factors have to go into how you predict the game. And, I joked with the boys before the game that I could see a typical 1-0 loss coming in. I didn't think there'd be many goals. And obviously, I got that bit right. But thankfully, I did get the scoreline wrong. Couple of things then in terms of players and lineup. So for them, quickly, obviously Jerry Yates, their front man, alongside the sort of is he Danish or Nordic or Swedish, the striker they had. But obviously Jerry Yates had that riffraff with Tango, didn't he, when Jerry Yates was at Swansea. And they had a new signing on the bench, Kamal Roof, that obviously during his previous days at that club up north always used to do well against us. So a couple of notable players for them. For us, the lineup then, let's go with that. So 2 changes. So in goal, Lucas Jensen. Right back, of course, Tristan Kramer, I never get that right. Tanganga and Jake Cooper, 2 centre-backs. And left back, Joe Bryan. Central midfield pairing was George Saville returning to the lineup alongside Casper De Norde. And then this was the other change, Negley coming in for the injured Bangura Williams, Negley going to the right-hand side, Kundal moving into the middle, Aziz on the left, and Mihailo Ivanovic up top. You look at the bench, and the bench did have some decent depth on it. Having the likes of Imaku, the likes of Coburn to be able to change the game, which, by the way, they did because they combined for the eventual winner. It just shows you how far we've come in terms of having that squad depth. But the game kicks off, and I thought for the first 10-15 minutes, we were really good. I thought we were the better side. By the way, the 1,800 Millwall fans, God, they made some noise. And, it was deliberate. What we were trying to do was to stop Derby's crowd getting behind them, taking our time with throw-ins and all stuff like that and winding them up. And it's sensible stuff, right? And just play our game and just try and make sure that, that the crowd remain nervy as opposed to, full of it. And I felt we did that really well in the first half overall. I think that when we look at the first half, first of all, obviously the big first talking point was on 9 minutes. Ball played into Japhet Tanganga, a really good turn. It was almost like a striker's turn. He drives into the box. And then there's a coming together of Matt Clark, and then I don't know if it was Nyambe or Ibu Adams. And Tanganga was incensed with the lack of decision of the referee giving the penalty. Being really honest, I think it was probably the right decision. What happens is, and I've watched it back so many times, it looks like as Tanganga pulls his leg back to take the shot, it clips with Matt Clark's leg, and that's what causes Tanganga to go over. I don't think he kicks the floor. And another reason for that is because of, you would know as a player if you've kicked the floor, and you could tell he was, very upset with the decision not to award a penalty. For me, it probably wasn't. But, I've seen them given for sure. And then, of course, following that, Negley puts a really dangerous ball in. Ivanovic just at the back post couldn't quite get there. We then had not real clear-cut chances, but just moments where we got into really good positions. I think Kramer had so much space down the right-hand side. And I said this after the game against West Brom. The way that we play, it gives, usually it's only one side, and it has been the right-hand side quite a bit in the last few games. It gives a ton of space to the right back. Now, of course, Kramer's not a right back, right? He's a centre-back playing out of position. But I thought he had an excellent game yesterday, and he found a lot of space down that right-hand side. There was a couple of nearly moments where just couldn't find the final pass, and Alex Neil touched on that in his post-match. But, I felt that there was only one team really in the first half. We didn't create bundles after that. I've noted down here a great ball in from Aziz that Clark almost gets completely wrong, and thankfully for them, it ends up just in the keeper's arms. A moment on 35 from Negley, but nothing clear-cut really created, and it was a very quiet game. Other than our fans, you didn't really hear much because we did a good job in terms of nullifying them. I just felt that there was no way they could be that bad and that passive in the second half. And I just felt that the fact we didn't score in that first half with some of those nearly moments could come back to bite us on the arse. I've also noted down that, and I think this is probably fairly consistent throughout the whole game, that Luke Cundle was very, very quiet in the first half. For me, Luke Cundle, you can tell, has got tons of technical ability. But when you don't have the ball, I think he stands out because he's not one of these players that's going to necessarily throw his weight. He's a small player, and he's not that he doesn't work hard, because I've said on these shows before that I think he does, but he's not that terrier like a Honeyman. I thought he was quiet yesterday, but you can tell as he beds in that he's got a lot of ability, and we just need to give him the ball more. We need to get him on the ball. I think that'll be key, and I'm sure Alex Neil is probably working on that for next season. But yeah, at the moment for me, I think Cundle needs to have more of the ball. Maybe in a side that has more of the ball, we look better, and maybe that'll be us next season. Don't know. But that was the first half. The second half, so no changes. But they have a penalty moment of their own. And I believe this is Ebu Adams and George Saville with a coming together. It was only Adams that appealed for it. No one else did. For me, not a penalty. Any Derby fans listen to this, I'm sure you'll agree with that. Sort of clutching at straws. By the way, I was impressed with two Derby players. And funny enough, they were both the central midfielders, Udo and Adams. Adams, obviously, is their skipper. They got him from Cardiff. Cardiff could do with him. I don't remember why they got rid of him. Liked his engine, his energy, and he's right at the top of the charts in the league for certain metrics and things. So I quite like him. If Derby were to go down, maybe something to look at. And then Udo is on loan from Crystal Palace. Very young player, only 19, 20, but really strong, physical. I know he ended up going off injured, so I don't really know what the score is there. But just thought I'd mention that there were the sort of two players from a Derby perspective that I thought looked quite useful. We then have a chance on 57. Again, Kramer with tons of space down the right-hand side. Picks a really good ball out for Cundle. And if Cundle makes more of a connection with this on 57, that's 1-0. But he doesn't. And then I think from, I would say, the 60-minute mark for about 10, 15 minutes, I think Derby started to then come on top. And I've noted down here that we needed to make some changes, because there was a couple of moments on 60. There were a couple of balls into the box. One where Saville did really well to cut back, to cut out the cutback, and another one where Kramer sort of throws his body on the line. And what really impressed me, and it shows in the stats when down to blocks, tackles, interceptions, is just the amount of work that some of the players got through in terms of those metrics, particularly the two centre-backs and Kramer. And in fairness, Sturge, when he came on, will perform really high. We'll talk about that in a moment. But It really did impress me, just how the players were just throwing their body on the line. Of course, then from that opportunity, a couple of opportunities in 60, it goes out for a corner, and then probably the best chance of the game. And twice now in quick succession, we've had very fortunate occurrences where one of our players has done superbly well to head it onto the bar. So this time it's Aziz. I think it's Matt Clark from the corner, wins his header, powers it towards goal. Aziz sort of he's on the line, he sort of flicks it up, it hits the bar, it then comes down, hits him on his back. It could have gone anywhere, but thankfully for us, it goes straight into the hands of a very grateful Lucas Jensen. And for me, that was when they were really starting to turn the dial and the crowd was starting to get up. And I was like, oh God, this is only going one way. I'm not sure the moment where Joe Bryan goes off. So I'm going to talk about it here. I haven't captured it in my notes. That's poor from me. I'm usually better than that. But Joe Bryan goes off after forcing a free kick. And I'm hoping that it's nothing too serious, because I think that he's been one of our better players in the last 5 or 6 games. What I will say is I thought Sturridge was very good when he came on. Speaking to a few friends after the game who are neutral fans, and he's one of the players that they called out. I thought he looked really composed, assured, didn't panic. And considering it was his first appearance in the show, I really liked him. So I think we've got really good competition there, but I'm just hoping it is competition and that Joe Bryan's okay. But very, very good, solid debut from Zach Sturridge. I felt we needed to make changes, and at this moment, we didn't, and they had another opportunity again, and it's only half an opportunity because of just some fantastic work from Japhet Tanganga, who was just my man of the match. He just pipped Tristan Kramer, in my opinion, for man of the match, but you could give it to either of them. But what I want to show here, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see. If on podcast, I'll do my best to explain it, is Tanganga makes an interception here. So the ball's played down the left-hand side from Derby's perspective. Tanganga reads the game really well, steps in and makes the interception. Now that you can see there is just inside his half on the right-hand side. What happens is they recoup the ball and they start attacking again. And as they're coming forward, you now see on this screen, they've got the ball in the middle of the park, and you can see Tanganga up there kind of in a right-back position, and there's 2 players there. And what Tanganga does here is superb. He can see the danger. So he's got 2 men to mark there, but he knows where he believes that ball is going to be played. And he reads it superbly, because what he then does, and bear in mind, there's only 10 seconds between all of this. He then gets back here, where he's in the penalty box. The ball has gone exactly where he thought it would, and he blocks off the defender, and it comes to nothing for them. What ends up happening, actually, is the ball goes down the other end for us, and then Negley has a really good chance, and it's a good save, and I believe it was the first shot on target all game. And the keeper, Zetterstrom, makes a really good save. So I wanted to point out there, because it was just 2 superb moments from Tanganga. And I think it's fair to say he's not been at his best the last few games, but I thought he was back to his best, hence why I've given him the man of the match, because those 2 bits there and then almost create an opportunity, I thought was outstanding. We then make the change. I've noted down here 64 minutes, a nice break down the left-hand side. Aziz probably holds onto the ball a little bit too long, should have played in Ivanovic, and the move breaks down. We then do make changes. Honeyman and Coburn come on for Ivanovic and Kundal. I have to say, all of the changes we end up making, I thought all of them had an impact on the game, and positively. And I think we needed to, because I felt that we looked tired. And, we've travelled a lot, right? It's been I think Max quoted in his post-match, we've travelled 1,000 miles in the last 3 away games. So, that does take its toll. And I think, hopefully, looking forward to a few home games coming up in obviously once we get the next couple of fixtures out of the way. But we started to look tired. I've noted down here, and you have to forgive me, I can't quite remember what happened here, but I feel like Jensen made a really good save on 70. And then on 72, he goes down like a sack of spuds and thankfully gets the free kick. But it was very, very soft. I think my opinion on Jensen is I think he will end up being a very good goalkeeper. He's still young, but for me, he has to command his box better. Like, he's a big unit, and a player comes near him and he either falls over and he just doesn't feel with confidence from crosses. And you can see some of the players as well. You can see just some of their body language. They're not 100% comfortable. So do you stick or twist? Don't know. Thankfully, I don't have to make that decision. But I just noted down here, you saw the sort of the best and worst of Lucas Jensen. His shot stopping ability from close range. And then, of course, the lack of strength and commanding. On 78, we make another couple of changes here. Billy Mitchell and Ademola Maku coming on for Denore and Aziz. And one of the things I found interesting is this is Alex Neil going for it, because he's got an inexperienced Zach Sturge on the left-hand side and Imaku in front of him. So that is very attacking, but also very susceptible to attacks from their perspective. Just reading my notes. Yep. Okay. I've got the Negley chance and the Tanganga tackles slightly. I said those too early. They happen slightly later in the game. But a minute later, on 82, we win a penalty. So what I liked about this was that we cut the ball out, and then it's Imaku that finds Coburn with that run with a really good ball. Was it a penalty? It's really difficult because, of course, if that was given against us, I'd say it's soft. What I would say is I think probably over the two penalties, the shouts that we had between them, you probably had one. I don't know. I actually thought the referee was okay, in fairness. I don't normally think the referees at this level are that good, but I don't remember thinking he got too much wrong. Tell me if you disagree in the comments. But this one, yes, it's soft. I will admit that. I think if I'm a Derby fan, I'm thinking it's soft. Langas certainly thought so. But of course, we then take the penalty. Josh Coburn takes it, and it's a poor penalty. It's not particularly struck with much power, straight down the middle, and Zetterstrom's big leg ends up making the save. And of course, I'll be honest, from that moment, I was like, we're going to lose here. They then bring Kamar Roof on. I'm like, the writing's on the wall, Kamar Roof 1-0. I just felt that the tide has started to turn. Again, I've noted down here Tanganga with a great tackle on 84. Kramer then does superbly, just runs and runs and runs, and unfortunately just delayed the pass that was on 91. But what I really enjoyed was the fact that the character and the courage from a side, again, that I think are tired. I think we look tired, even with the subs. I think the subs needed to come on to give us that bit of energy. And on 95 minutes, they give the ball away. They play the ball into the middle of the park. Negley picks it up. He drives across the pitch, which he's really good at. So he goes from right to left and he finds Imaku. And I'm just going to put this on screen. So Imaku receives the ball here. He's about, 10 yards? 10, 12 yards from the edge of the area, right? He receives the ball here, and there's already a player come towards him. Now, what I want to show you here is where he ends up making the cross, which is almost at the byline. So this here is outstanding because Imaku, he gets the ball and he just drives, and they're so scared of him. And then he puts a great ball across to George Saville. And it's a good instinctive save from Zetterstrom, but it falls very nicely for us, straight into the path of Josh Coburn, who before he's even put it in the net, Saville's celebrating. We go 1-0 up. The crowd goes mad. I certainly was in my living room. Coburn goes mad. You could see just how much that meant to him, given the earlier miss. And you think then we've won the game. And what I love there as well is just all the players celebrating together. The fact it was two subs combining. Does Josh Coburn only score tap-ins, or is he always in the right place at the right time? You tell me. But really good that he's starting to come back to fitness. And of course, we see the game out. And again, I've noted down here on 99 minutes, Camille Negley is chasing down the goalkeeper, which I just love it. I think you cannot fault this group for effort. It's a really, really good group, and we're now, I think, is it 15 points off of the relegation zone, and I don't know, with Watford winning earlier, I don't know if it's 6 or 7 points off the playoffs. For me personally, I don't think we'll make the playoffs. I think if you look at the fixtures we've got coming up, they're very difficult tests. Depends how you look at it. We are better against better teams, and we've got to play, I think, 5 of the top 10 or whatever it is. So who knows? You know, it's in a weird way, it probably is in a little bit, almost not quite, but close to being our own hands. So look, it gives us something to play for. You think at 45 points, we, pretty much safe, maybe 1 win away from being safe. So it's nice to just have something to play for. And what I think is really nice is the club won't say it. Of course they won't. And Alex Neil certainly, didn't mention this in his post-match. Quite the contrary. But it does give this group more time to bed in new ideas, which can only help us for next season. We haven't had a season where we're not involved in something. So personally for me, I think 3 or 4 games time, we'll realise we're not in a playoff place, in a playoff, chase. But it's almost nice to have nothing to play for. And of course, when I say all this, I would love to be fighting for the playoffs. I'm just being realistic in terms of the games we've got coming up. And I think where the group is, if you look at, we've had 11 games now under Alex Neil in the league. He's won 4, drawn 4 and lost 3. He's got 16 points from 11, which is 1.45 points per game, 66, 67 points over the course of a season, which is, it's a top half side, but it's not quite the playoffs. And I think that's probably about fair for where we are. I think that what's really interesting is our away form's excellent. We've only lost 1 away from home, but then our home form hasn't been so good. So, which is polar opposite to where we were under Neil Harris. So, look, I think it's just a good time, I think, to be a Millwall fan. It's almost nice not to be looking over our shoulder. And I think Alex Neil, in some of his post-match comments, he talked about how great the group is, and how we should never take that for granted. And so many people have said it, players, managers, how good this group is in the changing room is, and the fact that we have had such a turnover of players and it still is that way. But that's why I think having the likes of Saville and Cooper, and you can say what you want about their on the field contributions. I still think Jake Cooper is easily a top half championship player, but they have a role to play. And I think it's really important that whatever happens over the summer, that they get that balance right. And I hope that they will. I also want to mention Billy Mitchell. I thought when he come on, he was really good and gave us a lot of energy. I thought all the subs did. I've already called out Emaku. I've already called out Sturge. I thought Honeyman did okay as well when he come on. So, good positive changes from Alex Neil that obviously ended up having the just rewards, which is great. So, look, I think it's a really positive outcome from yesterday. And I think if you reflect on Alex Neil's tenure so far, you can see the progression. You can see the progression in the start of play, the amount of goals we're scoring. I will do a show on this. I'll probably do it after the 12th league game, which obviously is the next game, I think, which will be the Bristol City game, which is huge, right? We beat them, who knows? So I think Alex Neil, and I said this when he was appointed, but even more so, I think you can see he's almost the perfect follow-on from Neil Harris. I think he's a bit of a combination between Harris and Rowett in the sense that I think he's very tactical and very tactically aware. And I think Gary Rowett is, and I think you're seeing that at Oxford. And I wouldn't say he's the motivator that Neil Harris is, because I don't think any manager will be as motivational for players in a Millwall shirt than Neil Harris will be. But I think you can tell the players are playing for him, and he's got that nice combination of, being that tactical manager, but also you can clearly see that the players are playing for him and that everything seems to be quite all happy in the camp at the moment. So I'm really pleased with it. Did we deserve to win? I'd probably say just, with the missed penalty and a couple of chances as we grew into the game. From their perspective, I think they had that one where it was cleared off the line from Aziz. Other than that, I don't really recall us being troubled. So yeah, really, really positive. And, this league is relentless. You've only got to look at Luton, that could be facing double back-to-back relegations with, on paper, a very good side. So we should be pleased if we do end up in that sort of middle of the pack. But it's very, very nice to be sitting here with 12 games to go, thinking we are technically still in the running for a playoff place. Plus, we've got a great FA Cup game to look forward to next week, which I will be going to. So hopefully look forward to seeing some of you there. And Neil Harris got a win under his belt in his first game against Cambridge. So I'll always look out for those results for now as well. So a good weekend overall. Massive credit to those that went. I'm sure I'm going to get shit for this, but obviously I didn't do the post-match Preston. I work for a US firm, so I end up having to go there quite a lot. So I wasn't on holiday, contrary to popular belief. My next holiday is next month, maybe. But as some of you pointed out, it's part of the reason it's called Chat with Chaps, by the way, because it could be chat with chaps, i.e. me, or chat with the chaps, which is obviously more often than not what it is. So, look, I think a really good day, a really good way to round off the weekend. We're sitting pretty in the table, in my opinion, and now we can, have a good week's worth of rest and then see if we can go and beat the Nigels on Saturday down at Selhurst Park. As always, thank you very much for listening. I really, really do appreciate it. We all do. Working on a few very exciting things that are really going to help the charity, which I just don't want to share just in case for whatever reason they don't come off. But I'm really looking forward to some of the things we're working on. And it only happens because people listen to us. So we really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, bye for now.
Hi, it's Steve Morrison here, and you're listening to Chat with Chaps, chatting Millwall, come rain or shine.